sliceofsci-fi.com.
Two people who want to go off on rants.
Right? Rant away.
We're ranting away. Awesome.
So why don't I set this up for us all?
Well, please.
So we have
reread the story again. Make me blink my blood.
Yeah, that's easy. So Kate Mulgrew, who's everybody's favorite captain, right? In the Star Trek universe.
I did like her in the
favorite,
show.
But Joe loved her, I do believe.
I
Crazy
loved
Joe.
her.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong.
I couldn't
actually.
get past the hair.
She kind of sucks.
The hair changed.
Not just kind of sucks.
It was
she
still
really,
crappy.
She really sucks. The fact that they went 7 years kills me.
Don't agree.
Yeah. So anyways, she commented about the character of Catherine Janeway and Patrick Stewart's character, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, that as they were the only two true captains of the Star Trek universe. Those are her exact words, okay? So that is what she says. That's setting up. Now, her rationalization of it, which I think she was high at the time, but that's just me. Maybe Ativan.
She was in Colorado.
Ativan, she was in Colorado. Yeah, she's celebrating.
That's right.
She said for these two, those were the only two ones lost in space who captained their ships for 7 seasons.
I bet she was thinking voyaging through space or flying through space or traveling.
I don't know. Those words are pretty specific.
So,
That's why I thought immediately that she was drunk.
But just wait,
it makes no
it
sense.
goes on.
It gets better.
It goes better. She said, "Well, there are only two captains who were lost in space who did 7 years. Okay, Deep Space Nine was a space station. Shatner only did 3 seasons. Back Scott Bakula's character was canceled. The show was canceled after 4." And she also said that, that's basically what she's saying was that since Sisko was commander for the first 2 years, DS9 was on the air. She said, but yeah, he was in a space station. Doesn't count. So Patrick Stewart and I, Picard and Janeway, were the only true intrepid lost in space captains.
So full of shit.
And she says, I really think that's true, right?
No.
Wow.
Now Bret wants to obviously give her a bathlet to her vagina.
Shit.
So you guys
First off,
go to town.
May we just all point out, as we've all said, that
Enterprise was never lost in space. Never.
You trollop. I'm just saying.
You can probably take your cans off your head.
Oh, I can. You're right.
We can talk like this.
They might be lost just for a brief moment during their mission, but then they were right back on their bearings. They knew exactly where they were when the story was over. So, perpetually lost in space? No. And as we agreed earlier, Voyager was never lost in space his entire 7th season. Halfway through the series, they knew exactly they were going.
They were in contact with Starfleet. At the beginning of the series, they sat there and said, "We're 70,000 light years from home."
They knew where they were going.
They knew exactly where they were.
You're just really far from home.
Yeah,
that's not
they
lost,
knew
you
how
nitwit.
They knew how to get home.
I'm not sure I understand the whole lost in space concept.
If she sat there and said that we were in space that like nobody else in Starfleet had gone to, I could have maybe have bought that, but because they were
technically not lost,
but they were never
where
lost,
they were.
But they were. I don't know. I hate to try and reinterpret what her comments are, but I get this impression that she misspoke at that point. I will give her the benefit of the doubt.
I think she was inhaling controlled substance like Ativan.
It could be. It could very well be.
Maybe she was referring to like intrepid exploration, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking actually trek. They are trekking through space. They are discovering things. They are on a journey of discovery.
To simply say that we're the only two captains because our shows lasted 7 seasons.
And that's the other criteria.
That's the part that I have an issue with because I don't care whether or not Kirk was on a 7-year mission. He was doing the same thing.
5-year mission.
5-year mission. Sorry.
12-year mission.
12-year.
I see your 5 and Rachel's 7. It's funny.
They were on a mission, so
right. Okay, and I can dig that.
But just because
Voyager was actually not on a mission. They were just
one at a time. One at a time, kids.
I can sit there and simply say, hey, you know what? Shatner was way more of a captain because you know what? He had movies. What did you have, bitch? Nothing.
Well, the other thing is that just because NBC canceled, just because NBC canceled the series does not disqualify his ranking as a captain in Star Trek lore. I mean, that's
the logic
rubbish.
doesn't track. The logic does not track.
Yeah. You know how I know Bret's excited? Because his voice keeps going up and that's when he gets excited. It's kind of funny.
But there was 25 years or longer that we had of the original series in some form or fashion between movies and the TV show. and the animated series. I mean, so you just sit there and say that.
Well, but I mean, do you really count the years when they didn't make a movie? I mean, those don't really count as part of the.
But again,
in a way, I would count it because it's in syndication, and during that entire time, the entire Star Trek fan base was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as they were gathering more fans.
Again, Janeway owes everything she's got to Captain Kirk.
Absolutely, yes.
And he saved
the whole
whales.
franchise does.
Yeah,
I mean, it
he
really
saved the whales.
He saved the whales.
He did save the whales.
He did save the whales.
And he found God. I mean,
well, he did, yeah.
I think saving the whales is more important than that.
Well, I also think it also depends on what you're using as your measuring stick for where's really what she's
and
what
that's
she's trying to say.
That's what I'm having issue with right now. Is let's try and we need to kind of set some ground rules on what this debate's about. Is it inside a genre? Is it outside a genre? Where exactly are we working? Because if we're inside of the Star Trek universe, then okay, let's argue on the points of the movies and the TV shows and where they fall as far as captains and what they accomplished inside a character.
She could say Picard and I rule as captains because we lasted the longest, bitches.
Well, there you go.
That would be outside
tenure. Suck it. You got canceled.
They got the longest run.
My show lasted longer if she wants to do the Neener dance, right?
Exactly. And that's outside. That's just in genre.
But that's not how she came off.
And she can't even do that because, quite honestly,
absolutely.
Her argument then, if that were the case, doesn't apply because Captain Sisko was on for 7 years.
Jump in.
Sit over here. I'm gonna throw Megan in this because she has an opinion. I really don't care, you bunch of nerds.
Okay. I'm gonna say that in Klingon. You know.
How do you say that in Klingon?
I got lost. I forgot. I don't know where we were.
The other thing that I was going to also add is that the only reason the TV franchise was able to experience any kind of rebirth is due to the success of the Star Trek movies. I mean, okay, so some people, find motion picture questionable, but Wrath of Khan was an enormous success. Even Search for Spock and Voyage Home, huge successes. And that helped Paramount to go back to Gene Roddenberry and say, how would you feel about doing your show again? We'll give you full power.
Because let's not forget that Next Generation debuted in 88. Right? Was in development in 87. Voyage Home came out in 86, right?
Yeah.
So clearly there was 82, 84, and 86. These movies came out and were very successful and made Paramount realize, hey, we can make some moolah off
even
this.
Even with motion picture, when that movie made its money back in its first weekend.
It did.
So
oddly enough,
the Paramount clearly knew that there was a market, that this wasn't just some dead franchise that so many jaundiced and cynical people had thought. So for her to actually say Kirk doesn't count, is offensive.
And again, that's why I go back and I sit there and say, if we're going to sit there and say within the universe, within the genre, or within that universe.
Well, I don't think it really matters whether you're in the genre, outside the genre. It's a bullshit statement.
Well, it is a bullshit statement.
I think it was meant to be a bullshit statement. Oh my gosh, you just made me curse. Anyway, I just did. No, I think that's what it was meant to be. I think she said it to get you guys angry.
Us all riled up?
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's definitely starting some debate and some controversy.
That's like the Shatner get a life comment.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it really is. I mean, I feel like I'm on a Saturday Night Live skit right now. It's like, this is just something to rile up the nerds and the fan base in order to get everybody commenting, going, and watch them all bounce off the walls for about 4 hours.
Yeah, but
it's going to be longer than 4 hours.
Okay, so 4 days or 4 weeks, 4 months, whatever.
I mean, I even if that were the case, that she did it just to rile people up, right? I would sit there and say, to what end?
Yeah,
precisely. She likes to rile people up. I've seen her in interviews. She's a funny lady. She just likes to say crap and then see how people react to it.
She is kind of wacky, but it was not a very wise move on her part, because let's go back to the Shatner and the whole Get a Life thing. He experienced a rather severe backlash as a result of that. I mean, his popularity numbers dropped among Trek fans because they honestly believed that he held them in some kind of scorn.
Yep.
And for Kate to come out, and I was
by the way, wasn't the most beloved of all captains.
She's my favorite captain.
I really grew to love her. I've known Kate Mulgrew, well, not known her personally, but I've seen her in so many shows prior to Voyager, so I was already a fan.
I always remember Macmillan and wife.
Mrs. Columbo.
Actually, she was Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah,
was she? Are you
Mrs.
sure?
Columbo
Yes,
was
Mrs. Columbo.
Damn it, I got that wrong.
You did.
But for her to,
I love McMillan and Wife. I grew up on that show.
I thought she was the wife.
No, that's
right.
no.
That was Mrs. Colombo.
I mean, I guess.
Moving along.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Joe loves her as a captain. I didn't mind her as a captain.
And she
I didn't
did
mind
add something to the overall universe. She did contribute something. The universe is a little richer, a little bigger because of her part in it. Yeah. And some of the Voyager episodes I thought were very, very strong.
With her statement, she pooped on everybody else's contribution.
Exactly. That's what she's doing. And she's not making any strong friends with any Star Trek fans by saying something like that. I mean, it's going to create. She's got to realize that this is going to kind of hurt her own.
How many times have you said something in the moment and then we're later like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that?
Well, I'm waiting for the retraction.
Retract. I mean, maybe not. Maybe she's not the kind of person to retract, right?
Well, and it's not like the Get a Life statement. It's not like, I remember, if we're talking about Voyager, Robert Beltran having an interview where he just like ripped on how crappy Voyager was and how crappy Star Trek was. She isn't saying that. She still likes Star Trek. She didn't go.
She still gets
and say,
she just said Patrick and I are the better captains, are the only real captains, right? That's just
I mean,
that's bragging.
Yeah,
right?
it sounds more like a dick measuring contest than anything else.
It really was that kind of a statement. And if she's going to sit there and make that statement, then she should be prepared to whip it out.
It's a throwdown. Yeah, I'm good with that.
I don't know how big she might be.
With that voice, I'll challenge her to
I think she is, and I think she'll find a way to win.
Because, I mean, that I agree. It was a completely it was a throwdown.
Absolutely.
Right? But it's like
you need to back it up.
Yeah, you got to be able to back it up, and be prepared to have somebody.
Okay, I got Kid Rock going through my head now. Yeah. Thank you for that.
You got to be prepared for fans to sit there and come back and slap you upside the head for that.
Well, she's not stupid. I'm sure she knows.
Oh yeah.
But
she's a smart lady. She'll be able to defend herself.
She's not stupid, but this was a stupid thing for her to say, I think.
Yeah,
Unless it's what she wanted. I don't know. I think jury's still out. She may know exactly what she's doing, or she may not care.
she may be one of those people who's like, I'm so old, my show's over, I just don't care.
She's not that
I'm
old.
on Warehouse 13 anymore. Who gives a crap?
Right? Because
all the spoilers there.
Yeah.
What, me?
Because I mean, her show hasn't been on since what, 90?
It went off the air. You're talking about Voyager?
Yeah.
It went off in 2000, 2001? Because I had just went to college.
That sounds about right. I mean, her show hasn't been on in a while, so maybe she thinks we all forgot about the contributions of the other shows.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think she's under any illusions, because Voyager's pretty much seen as not the greatest. I mean, it was my favorite, but even I'll admit, not the greatest. Not really good.
There were some interesting things going on there, but I mean, it really ramped up in second season, and then it kind of faltered.
It faltered right in the middle until they really brought the Borg in heavily.
Yeah,
and then
the
show just took off at that point.
Yeah, once the Borg came in heavy, that's when it really was good.
And it went off the air in 2001.
Yeah,
2001. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I mean, but I just as a fan of the show, I take somewhat of exception to that statement.
I mean, that was all the TV series. I mean, all the TV series, they had their first seasons were always kind of meh.
Usually,
it took them a little time to find.
If you look at the first season of The Next Generation, it was horribly cheesy.
Oh, it was horrible,
horribly cheesy.
I mean, I enjoy it for nostalgic reasons, but
it wasn't great until Tasha Yar died.
Yeah.
That was my best. That was the greatest episode ever. I have that on.
I was upset
loop.
when she died because I liked her, but like looking back, you're totally right.
No, I agreed.
Well, it's only because her death happened towards the very end of the first season, anyway.
I was really shipping
not
her
a very good
and
measuring
Data.
stick.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I thought Data needed Tasha, and so I was sad when she died.
Well, he got some Tasha. Don't worry.
I see.
I know. I thought it was great.
He was fully functional.
Well, he's
a
cyborg. He can replay that over and over. Right. All it had to be was once.
Yeah, that's true. he's got a holodeck, right? He's got a holodeck. But I mean, each one of their shows. I mean, DS9 was pretty cheesy its first season. Actually, I think one of the ones that probably was not as very cheesy its first season was Enterprise. I thought that was
not cheesy, a little rough, but not cheesy.
I say more common than not in television. Shows have to find their footing in their first season, right? Like there has to be nuggets of good in order for them to be popular enough for people to, get on board and watch.
Yeah, but most seasons don't exactly hit the ground running right off the first year.
Right. It's uncommon. Yeah.
No, I agree. But I think if we're going to sit there and say, her statement, which is we're the only two real captains, I can't see how you can make that case just because your show went 7 years and nobody and the other.
I don't think you can, but the more we talk about it, the more it just sounds like just straight up trash talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight up braggadocio.
So I'm gonna sit there and say that, like, and
So,
I don't know if you've seen
Chest thumping.
So are we finished talking about BSG now, guys? 'Cause I'm ready. I can talk BSG till the cows come home. You know.
No,
So,
no.
Get out. No,
You're
come
done.
on.
Yeah,
Fine. There you go.
You know, but no, I mean, and that's fine. And I would sit there and say that one of the other captains, if they even give a crap, and I can guarantee you, William Shatner just doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
And Avery Brooks is.
Everybody knows about Chateauetry, right?
Yeah. That's
Avery
awesome.
Brooks has moved on.
Avery Brooks is in a completely musical world all of his own.
Yeah, he's totally moved on.
Yeah, so he's not going to care.
I'm sorry, he's always going to be Hawk for me.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he really. I mean, I think when he did the role of Cisco, in that case, it was more the status of I'm the first black
I would agree with that
captain
statement.
in Star Trek. That because I know that he was really kind of throwing out that card for a while there, but since then he just really hasn't seemed to care. I mean, every once in a while they'll do this big captains conventions, that they might have in Vegas, and I think he's only doing that for a paycheck.
Well, I mean, I don't know if did you see Bill Shatner's The Captains? Did you ever see that?
Not yet. I know what you're talking
No.
about. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it yet.
You should watch it because he does interviews with all of them, and the ones with Avery Brooks are hysterical because the dude just is not. I mean, he's altogether there, but
I just don't think he really cares for the franchise.
I never knew this about Avery Brooks, but he's a very musical person. He teaches music and he teaches acting, but he really teaches music, and everything he does in the whole interview he does it musically. He sings everything he talks about in the interview. There's no
Wow.
Every question that Bill
Really?
Shatner asks is answered in a song by Avery Brooks.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I mean, just spontaneously on the piano, he just whips it out and answers this question.
Aw. And I heard there was supposed to be a musical DS9 episode. Somebody told me that. I think a friend of mine. She said there was supposed to be one and it never happened.
That would have been
And that would have been awesome.
interesting. That would have been very interesting. But I mean, it probably
Once
just
more
turned
with
talking.
feeling, it worked beautifully. So
True.
Oh, Joss started a
know.
revolution. I mean, when a mainstream show like Grey's Anatomy does a musical episode, you know.
Fringe.
You know that it's
and
finished
Fringe,
with that.
Oh,
right?
Fringe was
Right?
awesome.
And
Fringe was awesome when they
Jaws
did it.
started it.
One of my
was
favorite
crazy.
Fringe episodes.
Yeah.
It was
Awesome.
It was really awesome.
And who knew that Broyles could sing like that?
I know.
That was the
Holy
shocker
cow.
of that episode for me. Was Broyles.
That's the number that I remember the most out of that
right?
episode.
Yeah, he's
It was
got
his
oops.
number.
I mean,
Wonderful.
it's like all of a sudden it's like, holy cow!
Broyles, do that again.
It's like,
Yeah. No, I remember.
your Seal's brother, you know?
Exactly.
And I forever remember him when I first saw him, which was on Oz on HBO, where I did not like him, and it was Oz. So hello. So I have this like weird mix-up of his character from Oz and Broyles, and then the singing. Like it's very cognitive dissonance for me. I can't.
Wow.
That's a really screwed up combination. Oh wow!
And it won't leave my brain.
And now you
I'm
have me
sorry.
thinking about his character from Oz singing.
Exactly.
There you
Prison
go.
musical.
Prison musicals.
There
They're
need to be
very
more of
popular.
those. They need
Oh
more
my
of
God.
those. Andrew Lloyd Webber, get on that.
Oh my
would
God!
you please?
I want to
Wow.
see that.
Wow. But, yeah. All right. I got nothing else to say about this.
I think
Phantom of the
we're
Alcatraz.
wrapped up.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Wait, prison musicals? Come
Prison
on.
musicals.
Suddenly
yes.
Brian's on board.
Oh man, I'm on board. All right, fine.
You're on board. You're on
Just
board
'cause
with
you're on
prison
top of
musicals,
something to
really?
show.
Too late,
Almost as
Brown.
good as Prison Shakespeare.
Yes.
Prison Shakespeare.
Fine.
Wow.
All right.
All right.
Done. Peace
Done.
out.
All right.
Cheers.
Later.